on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
We're going to have a special guest at the spring game, and I'm really excited. Frank Solich and his family are going to join us, and we're going to have an opportunity to honor Frank and his family. But I'd just really like to encourage Husker fans to help us make it really special. And we've been working on this a while, and but I think it's time, and really looking forward to Husker Nation honoring Frank and thanking him for everything he's done as a player, as a coach, and also honor him for what he did after he left here. I mean, Frank is a college football Hall of Famer in terms of what he accomplished as a coach, an incredible person. And so, yes, after a lot of work, we're going to be really excited to get to honor Frank Solich at the spring game.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. You heard from Trev Alberts there in the intro on Sports Nightly with Greg Sharp. And a big news coming out of that, too. News that really sparked a how do I say it? Hype, I think is the term I used to you, DB, yesterday. Hype reaction from the fan base, seeing that Coach Solich was coming back. But before we get into that, good morning.
Hey, what up? Good morning.
Can't believe that we walked in this morning and it's as chilly as it is, knowing that it's about to be 70 degrees today.
Yeah, can't wait. No, actually, I can.
No, I can't. I can't wait. I'm ready. You saw me walk in with my hood up. When I drive with my hood up in the car, you know it's a bad day.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, who's the guy in the dark with the hood on? But yeah, man, I'm just trying to get back home. It has been one of those
mornings.
Yeah,
one of those nights into mornings.
Listen, it is. It started last night with what you're talking about, though. So, I'm pumped. Anybody that knows me knows the role that he's played. Coach Solich played in my life. You know, he's been good to me. He's invested. And I'm pumped. It was, a couple 2-3 years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe 2-3. He snuck into town and
in Omaha,
literally. And Dr. Stark had set the whole thing up. And this was maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember. COVID has me all screwed up because I can't remember exactly. But anyway, long story longer, there were a handful of guys in the area. He said, hey, Coach Solich is coming back in town. He's only going to be here for a little while. We're having a private event with just some of his guys. I was like, yeah, say no more, right? So it's like a Thursday night, and I won't even say where we were. We were downtown somewhere, and it was it's probably 9 or 10 of us, a couple mostly all former players. And it's a David Sokol deal. And in Dr. Stark comes in, and Sokol did most of the talking. He's fantastic. I mean, a really gracious man. And because they were coming over from Creighton, because Doc was doing work with Creighton's basketball team, Bruce Rasmussen and Coach Matt came. So you have like this small little, I'm telling you, it's 14 people in the room, right?
But high-powered people.
But Mac and Raz wanted to come over just to say hello and express. They didn't stay. But I felt like that was kind of the start of my love fest with Coach Mac, right? Like I was already, and I had just told him like a couple of days before that, we'd talk, he'd give me some whatever. And I saw him and I said, wow. I said, twice in a week. I said, you're exactly who I think you are. And he said, yeah, just stopping over after practice. It was like 6:45. I think the event started at 7. And just that night, I mean, we sat around and we listened, and he doesn't like that stuff. even with his
Coach
guys,
Solich.
even with his guys, right? He's very he's just strong. Like strong maybe isn't the word. He's just a guy that
He doesn't need the attention.
nope.
And that's what
Nope.
I've read and what I've gauged too.
Doesn't want it. I think he's uncomfortable with it. He tough families raised. You don't show a lot of emotions, and I'm telling you, as I showed you last night, it was very difficult to pull off. And Trev stayed with it. Don't kid yourself. If Coach Solich would not be coming back here, if he did not believe in the administration and the head coach. So I think you got to give a special shout out to here we go again, giving Coach real praise, but you got to give the man his due. They've been talking for a while. Remember when he caught everybody off guard, and Trev, with one of the shows that he did, and he said, I told Coach Rule, I mean, you got to reach out to some of our former coaches, and get a lay of the land. And he mentioned Coach Solich. And you and I talked. I was like, that's interesting. Like, nobody ever says, hey,
let's go talk to that guy.
Go talk to Coach Solich. Right? And that was months ago. And I didn't think it's not like I was like, oh yeah, and I sequentially put it together. No, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was cool. I was like,
well, because that was your guy.
Yeah, right. So I'm biased, right? Super biased. So I'm like, but I'm telling you, hey, that relationship, it matters.
It's important.
And I took Coach Solich last night. I was like, hey, I just simply said thank you, right? And he's like, I appreciate it. Thank you. Right. Then you got to kind of get your composure. And it's like, because I just, and maybe things have changed over time and his health hasn't been great. And as you sometimes get older, you get a little more retrospective. But yeah, I had to take a few, like from 6:30 to 8:30 last night was like, just ran the gamut of emotions. And it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But it felt like a big deal to me personally.
It should be a big deal.
Because I didn't think it would ever happen. I didn't.
Well, neither did this fan base.
Well, you asked me a week ago. I think I probably know him as well as anyone that's not in his family that's still here, right? I didn't think it could happen. And I know for Trev, if Trev kind of walked you through it, because even I don't know the steps, I'm sure it wasn't easy. Like if he took some truth serum, like he had to stay with it. But I think in this particular case, Coach Rule mattered too.
You can't discount that.
No,
you can't
and I won't, because I know it mattered. It definitely mattered. So I'm pumped, man, and I'll already be there anyway. So I'm stoked. I just wonder, that place is going to be jammed.
52,000, I believe, is what Trev said they're approaching right now in ticket sales.
Yeah, it'll.
And that doesn't even include all the people that will be standing on the field.
Yeah, so I had two buddies last night. My buddy JB and KC, he's like, yeah, I'm definitely bringing my kiddo now. And even Degenerate Aaron this morning, who's not, he's a diehard, but he's been there, done that. You're talking about probably 30-some years for him. And I mean diehard. Right, sleeps and eats Nebraska, and even he goes, "Yeah, I may have to go to the spring game now," and that's not his thing. I'm
hearing that reaction from a lot of people, a lot.
So it's like, wow, like when you get those, when you kind of get those crusty seasoned fans. No disrespect, Aaron, but he's just not about the pageantry. He's a meat and potatoes guy. It's like if it's football, he's in on football. He's my wrestling guy, and he's like
this type of pageantry though is different.
It's kind of weird.
Well, and
it's like the white whale.
It is. Well, it's the curse that everybody's talking about.
I don't buy into that, but I get it. I'll entertain it.
So
I'll entertain it. But for me, that's not what it is.
So the curse, right? And there's plenty of examples that I've read that make this fan base feel cursed.
Hey, he's mythical.
But what really intrigued me about the article I came across on ESPN and the other points of interest from writers here in town was the fact of when I did some research on the curse, because I know so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still new, still figuring it out. Didn't realize that there was a literal curse.
A voodoo woman named Helen?
Yeah, something like that. A young woman, supposedly a descendant of Solich, saying her mother put a curse on Nebraska football way back when, right? And after speaking to a class at Nebraska, that's when people found out about this thing. And so then it had me thinking, like, man, who's more at fault? Is it Steve Peterson or is it Madam Zeroni? Like,
I've never heard. So you know what's so this
you didn't carry me up the mountain.
This is what's cool. Wow,
so I can get strong too.
See, like we always need balance, right? Like we don't want all of me. I don't want to be around all of you. Like balance, right? So these are the things that I'm so because I'm fairly pragmatic, right? And I don't pay attention to a lot of stuff, so I don't know a lot of this. I hear it a ton, right? And there's all sorts of curse theories, and I'm like, I don't even believe in that. But I don't want to I'm not trying to hurt your feelings either. Not you as in Drew Down, but I don't want to be too good to not, kind of be there for you either. So, but all this stuff, I don't know anything about. I just know that I think he has a misunderstood place in Nebraska history. And because it's misunderstood, it's gotten out of hand for some and it's turned off others, right? Because not everybody's like all in, like they understand, but I think it's gotten to the point now where it's like, oh, here go the old heads lamenting about the old days and revisionist history, and we don't remember the rosters in 03 and 04 and how he had to change his stat. Like, I get all of that and I understand it, but what I'm telling you is, for me, it's about the relationship with the man and what he's meant in my life. No more,
just like it is
less.
For everybody else that didn't have that relationship. Theirs is
they have that, yeah. So I don't want to be. That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah. So I don't want to be dismissive of that. Like, I want to,
and you acknowledge the fact that Nebraska football hasn't been what it's been. So you know, like, the trials and tribulations of football.
It's been super piss poor. But
if they start winning, DB, would you acknowledge the curse? Like, if and when Nebraska started to win football games, would you be like, yeah, it's broken? Yeah, they broke it.
No, and maybe I'm hard-headed. Like, I'm cool enough to, like, I mean, I'll listen, like I said, but no.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Sure.
Okay. So you believe in supernatural things?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So would you believe that a so-called, let's just say it's a medium, goes to Nebraska, goes to the campus, stands outside Memorial Stadium, throws some like water onto it, and says, like, you are cursed until you bring back Frank Solich?
I don't think I'm buying that.
That's too far out for you.
Yeah, but I'm just like a speck in like a great big beach, right, of sand. So I'm, it would be kind of short-sighted to believe that my train of thought is like the only thing out there, because I also believe that there's other life forms, right? Because I'm not naive enough to think that only our atmospheric pressure and only our temp and is perfect for us. I'm sure somebody else has to be able to live out there in this universe, right? Like, why only us? But I don't know about, like, I just saw that ridiculous preview because it's my guy in it, Russell Crowe, with the Pope's exorcism. And I'm like, I don't know if I can get into that, right? I watched that movie I was telling you guys about, The Ritual Killer, that I was so pissed at the end. What Morgan Freeman was saying to his class was interesting because he was a professor, and he kept saying, he's like, hey, I want you guys to research what is something that happens around the world that is so far from your thought capacity that you deem it ridiculous or unscientific, but for others, it's a way of life. That's how he talks. It's a way of life. And I was like, ooh, he kind of has the smoky blue eyes now. I don't know if it's like, I don't know, cataracts or something, but he's kind of got that old, old people's look now.
Fogged up.
And I was kind of like captivated. I was
when Morgan Freeman was talking?
Yeah, because
when are you not captivated?
Because
when
the
Morgan Freeman
guy
talks?
that was the ritual killer was known as a witch doctor. So for people in other countries, some of that stuff makes some sense. For your boy, nah. But I'm not trying to go. Listen, I'm not trying to go to the Sudan and be like, hey, practice, man. Let me try to buck the trend. Do your thing and see if I believe. Yeah, I ain't doing that. Right? I'm not trying to have some chicken foot coming out of my head or anything. So I'm not going there either. Shoot, maybe according to Severe, I only got to go to Louisiana. So I ain't going to Louisiana either. No, I'm just serious.
No, you're not. All right,
yeah, I don't know about the. Are you a curse guy?
Am I a curse guy?
I'm just happy. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
I've never experienced a curse.
I'm gonna go get a deck when we go home. Sometime this afternoon, I'm gonna
get tarot cards out.
I'm gonna go get a deck of cards, and I'm gonna go Coach Solich way until he gets here. So I'm gonna grab 10 cards, and he would lay them on the ground. 10 of diamonds, you do 10 push-ups. Jack, you do 11, and so on. So I'm hoping I get all low numbers right. Like
first card,
I want 2s,
4
3s.
of clubs.
Yeah, that's great. I only have to do 4.
I'm just telling you. That's
so you do 10 and then
forward.
you do all that many push-ups, and I'm going to do them until he comes. And then when I give him a hug, I may finally be stronger than he is.
Maybe you could break the curse by just giving him a hug.
No, man, he's so, I don't know. There's a lot of love. And I'm glad we're kind of keeping it light because I did not want to get emotional again. Husker Radio Network got me last night. I wasn't trying to go there again this morning, but like it's a genuine, like I love him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just is, he's so cool in the fact that 60% of what I say is what he believes. The other 85%, because there's some overlap in like the Venn diagram, is a lot like my dad. So I equate those two things together. Doesn't matter who's in the room. Know your role. Know your worth. Be confident. Don't be afraid of competition. Doesn't matter how many talented or smart people are in the room. Understand. Be other-centered. It's not, words are important. Choose them carefully. Like he barely ever talked. Like there's just lots of things that I admire about his personality. And no other coach was getting me out of that UCLA tailspin. No other coach. Some of my teammates were cool. Abdul, Ed Stewart, even T. Fraze, who was the one that got me benched. No, actually, I got me benched. I'll own that. No BCD. Like, kind of invested later, but it was Coach Solich. He said, hey, man, he's got a lot left. There's a lot in you. You got to compete. You got to fight. It's not pretty right now. You got to fight. Put both hands up. He grabbed my hands.
He was for you.
He grabbed my hands. He put them in front of my face. He's like, you got to fight. You got to fight. And I'm just like, hey, man. First of all, don't touch me like that. But wait, you did just put your foot in my rear end. And so you're probably going to win this fight. So go ahead, touch me. But like those are the, and as I try to keep my eyes from watering, those are like the things that like I can remember. And that's, it's just how I am it's just how I am as a person. You got to fight. You've got to fight. And so, I am beyond pumped to
Well,
get my guy back.
And don't let me put words in your mouth, but I'm sure it doesn't help too your reaction to all of this, seeing how it went down for him. Because as much as he was for you,
Mm.
like this is a guy that put
There-
his
there-
heart and
there-
soul
there- there
into
were-
the program.
There were a lot of people
He
that
got
weren't
his
for him.
opportunity,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden it was just stripped. And it's like, wait, man, like I've been with you. I've been standing by you this whole time. I've been making an impact on these student athletes' lives forever. And now you just rip away after a successful season. Yeah. And so that also probably hits deep for you too, because when you see him go through that stuff, it's like, that's my guy, and you just did him that dirty.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mar up the segment with the gunk, but it was a travesty, in my opinion. How, combined with some shortcomings, I mean, some of that he'll own, right? But the outright witch hunt from an administrative level is inexcusable, and it's unforgivable. Without some sort of, hey, I acknowledge that I did this, this, and this. That's on me. My bad. Because until those people come clean with that, I'm not that guy. A couple people in particular. One, she knows who she is. I didn't talk to her until she left the university, a short time ago. 16 years, never said a word to her. And I won't. The athletic director, it is what it is.
Let's go to line one, Shane, and speak with A-Dub about the curse. Wyatt, you are on Coffee and Cream. Good morning.
This is my guy.
Good morning.
What is up, buddy? How are you?
I finally got some time I can actually call in.
Hey, and you know what? You broke the mood. I was starting to get a little emotional, and so I kind of smiled when I saw your name pop up.
I'll see what I can do.
What's going on, man?
So, you talk about curse. I would say it's not a curse, because I think what happened was just a series of bad decisions. And like things like hiring Callahan and Eichhorst and things like that, that's not a curse. Those are just bad decisions. And I think if you want to really break the curse, though, you have Damon out there at halftime and reenact the time you got kicked out of practice, and kick that curse out of there.
Hey, don't you think though you can attribute those bad decisions to a curse though?
No, those are just, you can attribute that to more. I was just saying it's stupidity than a curse.
Well, you're the man. You don't call near enough. You come up quite a bit on this show, and I'm glad Andrew knows you're actually a real person.
So I got a little one in my arm that keeps me busy in the morning. Where how much I really wanted to call when Robbie was making more bad NBA takes.
Yeah, get him, Asian Wyatt, get him.
That's what I wanted to call about, but little one was keeping me busy, and I couldn't call in. So.
Oh man, I appreciate you, my guy.
You, A-Dub.
That's
Enjoy
right,
the day.
Robbie and bad NBA takes. Facts.
Lance, hang around. We'll get to you next. I also want to talk about unification, and we'll set up the show in the next segment as well. More Coffee and Cream coming your way here on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
One of the things that Coach Rule has asked me about is how do we, like he respects and wants to honor Nebraska, everything about Nebraska football. And we're going to do everything we can to do that. At the same time, how do we move forward? How do we innovate? How do we think differently? If we're doing the same thing in 2023 as we did in 1988, we might not be successful. So we need to earn the trust to be able to do those sorts of things. And I think part of that is respecting past traditions. You then get some flexibility to create new ones. And I'm excited.
So good.
Welcome back to the show.
So good.
Trev is so good. And I was just telling you during the break, he's the only person that could have accomplished selling Nebraska football again to Frank Solich. And it's not the fact that, hey, it's been bad product, the tradition. It's nothing, none of that. It's, hey, come back for the fans. Don't come back for you. Because as we said, it's not his style to be the center of attention. But if he came back because of the fans, the people that he knows supported that program for how many years was he here? 30, 25 plus years?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long Solich was actually here. And you can let me know in the comments via YouTube.
Let me know.
But this is something that only Trev was able to do. And Trev, he's such a – well, we don't give him enough credit. We give Matt Rule more credit for speaking, but we don't give Trev enough credit for being a good speaker.
Yeah.
Somebody that can get the message across the Nebraska way. So all that being said, good on Trev for bringing a guy back that hasn't been outside of that one-off visit in Nebraska.
Did I show
for
you that
over
part?
19 years.
Just that one?
No.
Read that again.
You want
No,
read this?
just internally.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right?
Uh-huh.
That's his train of thought. It takes a village. Like if you want to do this family thing and go all sister sledge, well, you're a little young for Shane, sister sledge. We are family.
I've heard it once or twice.
Right? Did you roller skate to it?
We are family.
Yeah. So I just it's the balance for me, which is why I'm glad you're kind of a blank slate, because you don't allow me to get all historical and emotional, and because you have a different vantage point. So it keeps me in check, because what I'm saying isn't really relatable. And if no learning can occur, I'm probably not saying it. So it keeps me, like, you have no idea how much that keeps me muzzled, right? But the whole jokes about tradition coalitions and what fans harken back for and to and wanting to go back to the 90s is, and I get it, right? Stereotypes come from somewhere, right? Baggy pants and wearing them at your ankles usually comes with some sort of stereotype, but that stereotype has legs, right? So it's kind of how I feel about this. Like we, whether it's former players or fans, older fans, can sometimes migrate back to that, right? Like remember when, and we used to, but that's not I don't know anybody like that, even in my sphere of influence. Not Rob Zadiska, not Zach Wiegert, not Ricky Simmons, maybe a little bit Johnny Rogers, but it's just because he's old. Not EC. I'm just talking with Rayola again last night. Like, not him. Like, most people don't want that I know. They don't. But they want some core components. Work ethic, accountability, competitiveness. That's it.
And that's a total player approach.
Listen, anything other than that, knock yourself out. Because for 10 years, I've said, listen, you can embrace the past. Just don't be held captive by it. Do your own thing. Do your own thing. And it's like Coach Rule said, the guy's a flipping genius, right? It's like there's 3 things that he consulted old heads on. No disrespect to anybody that he consulted to. The black shirt tradition. I won't say the other, and 2 other things. That's it. Everything else, hey man, let's get current, let's get modern, let me add
in the moment.
Let me add my ingredients to this bad boy and get this thing hopping. We good? This is what you hired me for. We good? Right? So I'm cool with it. And watch it work. You don't want us at practice? We won't come to practice. You want us at practice? We'll come to practice. You want to go 0 through 9? Don't care. Like those things don't bother me in the slightest, because all I care about are those core components. Are you for me? Do we embrace competitiveness, and do we work our ass off? Outside of that, I don't give a what, because I've seen multiple ways to skin a cat. I just have, and I love my guys, man. I was talking to one of my former guys yesterday, and I was giving him a hard time about giving one of my other former guys a hard time. I said, stop bullying people, right? Let him do his thing. Stop bullying people. And he laughed it off, and of course wanted to fight, because that just seems to be a common thing of what the old heads want to do. But we were just talking about how to move this thing forward. And it's literally just moving it forward, because Coach Rule has basically cleaned house. It's a lot of different faces around that place, but he was smart in consulting with a few. And I know everybody says, well, it's T.O., man. Got to move. It ain't just T.O. It's like, you'd be surprised. Like, he's smart. He's watched this thing from afar. Because I think the minute he knew he was in trouble, and somebody asked him today, right? He's talking to the media. The minute he got the inkling that he was going to be out in Carolina and he thought he was coming back to college, I bet you he's just taking notes. Hey, man, I've been out of the game for X amount of time, man. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do?
How do I catch up?
Because I knew he knew where his heart is. And his heart is, he's not about that transactional life. He's just not about that life. He's just not about the transactional NFL life. He's got to be invested in kids. And I think he's done his homework. So let's move forward. I'm cool with the you want to mess with the tunnel walk? I won't go crazy. You want to tweak how you do the tunnel walk? Go ahead. Right? Let's not go crazy.
Some things are more tweaked
and I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to speak on the black shirts, so I don't even go there. Those guys, they're different. They're wired different. They believe what they believe. I was an offensive guy. Hey, man, not my business.
You are qualified, though, to speak on the black vests.
Yeah, this one's. Do you like that? So I went a little puffy with this one, and it doesn't have the zipper, because if I get caught,
your hands get cold.
No, when I get aggravated and I need to mind my own business, I can do this.
That is part of your body language,
and this allows me to. It's.
I've seen that before,
dude. It's a self-calming technique.
Everybody has their thing.
Dude, Dr. Stark, he's equipped me with some things. I can function.
Dr. Stark?
I can like function.
From Stark Industries?
No, man, listen, one of the OGs, the greats. I have lots of best practices behaviors. It beats medication.
Shane, do you think we can thread Michigan Lance in, or do you?
He's only got a minute 31, so we better let him hold through the break.
Yeah.
He wants to talk about Coach Solich, and if he says anything wrong, I will reach through the phone and choke you.
Well, four coaches.
I talked to him for 54 minutes the other day.
Lance?
54 minutes waiting for Micah at practice. I sat right outside of middle school, McMillan Junior High, and this dude just talked. And I listened. It's good.
I did that a lot last night.
Well, we talked about
that guy from No Block, No Rock.
We talked a lot about getting kids ready in college and parenting and
yes, indeed,
moving Nebraska forward. Now that he's got this Florida insight and the things that Florida are doing, very interesting. We're behind, obviously, and it doesn't have anything to do with population base. It's more about fundamentally what we believe in. It's the biggest difference.
4 coaches have been hired and fired at Nebraska since Solich and the Cornhuskers have failed to finish better than the 10-3 mark achieved by his last team. Goes into our poll question today, too. Were you a true believer in the curse of Frank Solich, and do you believe honoring him at the spring game will officially end the misery? You can vote at Hail Varsity Radio. Yes, yes. Yes, no. No, yes. No, no. 4 options there. Let you pick and choose. More people are on the yes, yes train right now.
I can't retweet that. Do you know why? I'm not a curse guy. I love you. I love you,
part of it,
but I can't do it.
Maybe you retweeting it helps.
I ain't gonna subscribe to it.
It's like holy water.
What?
Frank. Michigan Lance. We'll talk Frank next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the show. You may be missing Damon Benning at the moment, but he will be back here in a few seconds. Maybe he'll tell you why, maybe he won't. But it's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Now, I'm going to wait, Shane, on Lance here until DB gets back so that he can hear the conversation as well. But it's interesting. Everything about what the fan base had to say about the curse and everything about what DB had to say about Frank Solich is interesting. It's an interesting read for me to go through all of that in my head. I mean, I just always go back to this point. Imagine you're waiting your turn for that big promotion at work. You've put in the hours, put your blood, sweat, tears into the program. You have the success to back it all up. You get it. You get that thing that you've been so you wanted to attain, right? You so badly wanted to attain. You're successful and then you get fired. Like, I can understand why you wouldn't want to come back after something like that.
Well, when I first heard the announcement last night, the first thing that came to my mind was like my life has almost come full circle, just because when I started here in Omaha as a broadcaster, as a producer for the former station that I was at, Solich was the coach. And to have him come back like this, I mean, it just feels like my life has come full circle now.
It has. And let's go to line 2 now. Michigan Lance here to talk about Coach Solich. DB, welcome back. Sitting in the chair. He's ready. I waited for Michigan Lance for you, though, because I knew he had something good to say. What's up, Lance?
Hey, thanks, AR. I appreciate that, brother.
How you doing?
Hey, the bat signal went off, Michigan Lance. I had to get it.
Yeah, did I miss it? Because
No. Different time, different conversation. What's up, buddy?
The Frank Solich bat signal for sure. Hey, so DB, I got to get a Laker thing in. KD has to be your number one most unlikable Laker ahead of LeBron now, right?
AD. Oh, you talking about Anthony Davis?
Anthony Davis.
It's close. AD, Smush Parker, Sasha Vujacic,
DB, he's a talented guy.
Norm Nixon.
Oh my God! This is one of the most talented guys, and you don't get everything from him. It seems like.
Listen, we got a win versus the Bulls last night, and I'm trying to get us in a position for the play-in game, man. Are we okay with that? Or are you just gonna torment me over a guy that doesn't look like he's playing very hard?
I'm mad because he's earned his legacy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Frank Solich, man. You know, a couple things, DB. I want to ask you. After UCLA in those years, was the guy that benched you, like kept you bench?
What's that?
Not necessarily benched you, but was the guy that kind of like he told you to fight and stay hanging there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it somebody else that wouldn't get your redemption sooner?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
That was not Coach Solich 100% driven. Correct. Why do you ask?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I figured that.
Because you don't think I could love somebody that much that was that heavy-handed in me not doing what I wanted to do, or what? Like, how'd you arrive at that?
Because I always had a feeling. I grew up in Nebraska. I grew up in Nebraska because of other people in my family weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Form an opinion not liking Nebraska when you didn't get a second chance.
Right.
And the 13 years, I'm 13, 14 years old at the time. And at that time, I was like, Tom Osborne isn't going to get it. He can't, get redemption.
Yeah.
He can't come back in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he can't give him the chance. And I always blamed him. You don't have to say who it was. Just say who I blamed and thought was the reason. I didn't know anything about Solich at 13, 14, but just like, how does this guy get another look? So, anyway, now the reason I became to like Frank Solich is I don't like when people scapegoat for something or not scapegoat, but fired for something that he shouldn't have been fired for.
Mm-hmm.
you want to say that was it, okay. But if you're going to say wins and losses, and you're not even trying to help the guy win, you know what I mean? Like you're fighting against him, then that's wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I get it, and I appreciate the call, Michigan Lance. He was breaking
Thanks,
up a little
Lance.
bit. I think his main point was I think he wanted people to be forthright if it was about something else, or then make it about that as opposed to because with the overall win-loss record, it made it. I'm all sorts of distracted. That call was wild.
Hey, you're all good. You're all good. I want to get to a point though that you brought up just about 10 minutes ago. Shane, can you play Trev 2 for us?
Well, we've first of all, he's an incredible person. He is one of the most humble people you will ever meet. And, in many of our conversations, I think one of the ways that I got to turn the corner a little bit is, he would continue to say, Trev, it's just not me. I don't want that. I don't. And it finally dawned on me. And I said, Frank, what if I told you it's not about you? What if I told you it's about the fans, and our fans want to? And, that gave him pause. But I will say, and I don't want to go too far here, but in the last 2 years, you and I were talking about this prior to the show. I watched this place from afar, my 12 years in Omaha prior to that. And I watched the fragmentation in so many areas, fragmentation in our fan base. When one coach was fired, when they didn't think he should be fired, and then the next coach was hired, and that was the wrong coach. And we had former players, and we had all this fragmentation. And if there's anything Coach Osborne was so good at communicating, at least that made such an impact on me, was the power of unity and unity of purpose. And we would talk about how we may not be the most talented team, but if we're the most unified team, because, and that's why teamwork is one of our core values. We don't let anybody put their own personal self-interest ahead of what's in the best interest of the team. And so this concept of, I've watched incredibly gifted teams accomplish very little. I've also watched marginally talented teams change the world because they were unified. And so I've just been really focused on how can we find a way. We're a small population state. The only chance we have is to have unity.
That's good.
And so
Shane.
now to find our...
So that's what I wanted to touch on there, because you said we're all in the family, right? That's the approach. But the word to use there is unification. Mm-hmm. The importance of unification, and of course, Trev Alberts on Sports Nightly with Greg Sharp last night, we appreciate the audio, cannot be understated. When players, coaches, even fans feel part of a group, they're more inclined to work harder for the common goal. The more workers feel connected to the organization, the more efficient they'll be. That's why Rule pushes for the exact same things, not taking anything away from his personality. But don't you think there's a reason he hangs out with Coach O and picks his brain for more than he's just one of the best to ever do it?
Mm-hmm.
So good at communicating that made such an impact on me was the power of unity and unity of purpose. Doesn't that sound exactly like something that came right out of Coach Rule's mouth in the recent press conference or the next one? And we just chalk it up to, we would just say, oh, it's just another great Coach Rule saying, no, it starts with unification. And he's gotten that based on his own experience, but also through the workings of talking with these other coaches, Coach Osborne, even Coach Solich.
Yeah, for me, and just get my composure here, just to hear, I served on a couple of advisory boards with Trev and had conversations, early on. Former teammate, guy that I had a lot of respect for, and some hard conversations about what happened with wrestling and football. And there was this time where just had to get some guidance from someplace else, right? I talked to my dad and would see how he felt. And I was very close to Coach Denny, who's very good to my family. Just was with Sandy Buddha. I wasn't with him. We were at the gas station together a couple of days ago. And so
I have all these relationships in the community, right? Al Caniglia, Milo Bell, like they hired my dad at Omaha. So, and I'll hold that thought just because I need some time to collect myself. Because when I hear him talk about unity of purpose and family and fragmentation, we had a tremendous talk about former players and what was going on at Nebraska and how he had to do all this homework before he took the job. And if anything, he's consistent because what he's talking about, we have no idea on the depths, but we'll try to scratch the surface when we come back after the break.
And we're talking to Mitch Sherman as well. We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
We're going to have a special guest at the spring game, and I'm really excited. Frank Solich and his family are going to join us, and we're going to have an opportunity to honor Frank and his family. But I'd just really like to encourage Husker fans to help us make it really special.
Hey, welcome back. Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Beside my guy, Damon Benning, I'm Andrew Rogers. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. We're talking to Mitch Sherman here in a couple of moments. Do you want to finish your thought?
No,
let's
wait.
Let's
wait.
I gotta keep that as a tease.
I
for the
enjoy
people.
talking to
Yeah,
Mitch.
we'll keep that as a tease. We're talking to Mitch Sherman here. We will also talk to Brian Edwards to close out the hour. Then we have Michael Bruntz and Matt Vrzal in the 9 o'clock hour as well. We'll do Sports Six-Pack. We'll talk MLB. Still a lot to get into today. Yeah, maybe, right? We'll see if we get there. But before we do anything else, let's go to Mitch Sherman now. He's joining us via StreamYard. So for those of you watching at home, you can catch him on YouTube TV. But you can also hear his voice on 590 currently. And we will leave it at that. Mitch Sherman, good morning.
Good morning. Happy opening day.
Yeah.
Happy opening day indeed. Hey, before we get into Husker talk, let's ask you this. Who's your MLB team? And if you had to choose a World Series winner out of these options, would it be the Blue Jays, the Braves, the Astros, or the Padres?
Why are you throwing him this softball?
I see you in your St. Louis gear, and I'm feeling inadequate because I'm not wearing my Royals gear this morning.
I was going to say, you're going to give Mitch the platform to talk Kansas City Royals. Here we go.
I'm representing in a different way this morning, so I don't know if you can see this. But,
yep.
I've got like 2 months left to be a Gretna high school parent, and then we switch to the new school out here, Gretna East. But
are you okay with that, Mitch?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, I can almost see it out my kitchen window if I took the houses out of the way, and it's fantastic. Looking forward to it's going to be a different experience for sure because we've been spoiled at Gretna in a variety of sports in recent years with competing for Class A state championships, and I know that's not going to be the case in the early times of Gretna East, in particular because it'll be in Class B, but also it's going to take a little bit of a building up, but I think it'll happen fast. And I've got a sixth grader who, by the time he gets to school there, it should be pretty fun to watch their sports. And it'll be fun. It'll be fun for my daughter, who will be a junior from the beginning, just for different reasons than what we've seen her first 2 years in high school. So, but I'm a Royals fan. That's not going anywhere. My passion for the Royals is lifelong. And so I've got, just a little bit of a reason to have some animosity toward you, Andrew, this morning as you wear that Cardinals gear.
Why is that? I mean, you're in the AL. We're fine.
I don't care. I mean, it's the same state. I mean, it's like
the I-70 series.
We've been paying for 1985 for the last almost 40 years. So,
you and
but of those teams that you mentioned, I'm not going to base it on anything that has to do with how I break down their lineup or their pitching staff. But if I'm choosing between those teams, it's the Padres, because I enjoy seeing the Padres do well and have some connections and some family in San Diego, and have had the chance to have some good times at Petco Park. So go Padres.
That's kind of like the March Madness take. I have family in San Diego, so I'm going to pick that team to win, and then they'll end up winning because of that.
Up until about 60 seconds ago, I used to really like Mitch as a diehard Dodgers fan. My man, all in on the fathers. Hey, so let me ask you something, Mitch. And I was saying this in the opening segment, kind of as an aside, but maybe more than I even thought initially. I said, let's not. And I have to be careful, right? Because I don't always want to give Coach Rule credit because it seems like that's all I do. But I said he has to play an integral role in this, because just knowing Coach Solich the way that I do, I think the leadership has to be right across the board, right? It wasn't just going to be a Trev wants it and who's back there and make it about the fans. Like, I think
the coaching thing had to be right too. How much do you think?
yeah.
Right. Like, how much do you think Coach Rule and Coach Solich, whether they see eye to eye or they're pen pals or whatever, you get the sense Coach Rule had to play an integral role, don't you?
Well, it would be interesting, and it will be interesting to ask him that question. I'm not going to be at practice on Saturday. My kids are on spring break, so I'm going to be getting out of town for a few days. I'll be back next week, but my coworker Max Olson will be helping me out.
Max.
Yeah, I'm gonna forward that question on about what his thoughts are, and I'm sure it'll get asked anyway. We don't need to ask it. It's somebody's going to ask that question because it's top of mind this week. I remember very early in after the Rule hire, it might have even been at that November 28th introductory press conference, or it could have been another conversation, a press conference, or off on the side, that he talked about Frank Solich, and it seemed like it kind of just came out of the blue, like I wasn't expecting it, and he brought it up. And as we've gotten to know Matt Rule, I think there's a little bit of a better understanding, or I have a little bit better understanding of why that happened, because he's so tuned in to what matters to Nebraska fans and Nebraska people that it's natural that it's something he would do. It's why he has engaged Coach Osborne the way that he has. He would want to do that anyway, I think, as the current Nebraska football coach, but he's done that, even with more vigor, just because of how important he knows it is to people. And it's similar with I think the relationship and the dynamic there between Coach Rule and Coach Solich, there's a mutual admiration. It's kind of the impression that I get. And there was some crossover when Temple was in the MAC. So I think they came across each other at that time. And I think when Rule took over at Temple in 2013, they were moving into the American Conference. So they probably did not coach against each other as head coach versus head coach, but Rule was an assistant at Temple when they would have gone against Ohio, I believe, as MAC competitors. So he definitely knows all about Frank. And I think Frank, probably has a good sense of Matt Rule, and hopefully we'll get the chance to talk to him on April 22nd and ask him about that.
Coach Solich coming back, Mitch, to be honored at the spring game is a huge moment for a lot of people in the program. I was just scrolling through social media yesterday, and not that it will do right for anything that happened back in the early 2000s, but the long overdue visit will, in a lot of people's minds, break the curse. Were you ever a believer in the curse, and how much do you commend Trev for pulling this off?
Well, I think it's interesting to look at. No, I mean, I'm not into like sorcery and stuff like that. I've heard the stories, and I actually tried at one point to, I know Elizabeth Merrill from ESPN, former coworker of mine at the World Herald and at ESPN.
A great writer.
She did a nice piece about the curse. It's just kind of folklore and something that people have talked about around Lincoln. I don't think it's obviously the Solich family is not a proponent of that at this point. I'm sure there were feelings back in 2004, 5, 6 that may have been more intense, and they may have felt a little bit of that. But that's at this point, no. I think we'll hear that. Coach Solich and his family too, I think are going to handle this in the way that you would expect this return. And I think it was important to note in the announcement last night from Trev, he said Frank and his family are coming back. So it's not just him. He doesn't obviously want this to be about him, and there's not all that much he can do. It is going to kind of be about him, but his family will be alongside him. And I know Trev said this is about the Nebraska fans. It's something the Nebraska fans want. Previous athletic directors have tried to do this, I think, and for a long time he was coaching. For a long time he was coaching, and it was difficult for sure to bring him back in the spring or obviously in the fall when he had his own team to run. But he's been out of it for a couple years, and in that sense, it's not like it's been decades that they've been trying to trying to do this when he was retired. So, but all credit to Trev. Trev, did not play for Frank as a head coach, but of course, Coach Solich was on that staff with Trev's teams, and they had a relationship. And it's been up and down, I'm sure, like anything else. Trev was there front and center on ESPN in 2003, and he made his opinion known, and I think it's great that 20 years later, that's just a total non-factor, and it shouldn't be. He was a college football commentator, and maybe it shouldn't even be brought up, but people will bring it up. Trev was a proponent of Steve Peterson making a change back then, and I think the last 2 decades have given everybody a lot of perspective on this, and it's easy to see things somewhat differently than we did 20 years ago.
Mitch, kind of back to spring and real time. How much would, and I kind of said this rhetorically, I'm like, man, is Coach Rule delusional or just that confident? A couple of things that he said about the offensive line. I always keep receipts, right? Remember early on it was, I don't really subscribe to the theory we're not going to be good up front. We will have a good offensive line. And then the other day he uttered the famous phrase. He goes, 12, it's kind of what I'm used to, right? I mean, you guys, and he's kind of walking us through his philosophy. And I'm like, man, either he's extremely confident or he's a little delusional that he doesn't understand the Big Ten. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, didn't have a ton of guys at Temple, didn't have a ton of guys at Baylor.
Yeah.
And certainly has never seen a ton of guys on the O-line in the NFL. I think he knows where he needs to be in terms of scholarship numbers, but he's certainly not panicking that he's not there yet. Is that fair, or is that too objective?
Well, my first thought too went to the NFL, and you have a 53-man roster, so 12 offensive linemen seems like a pretty big number, but it's a different game. I mean, you can go sign a free agent, you can call a guy up from the practice squad. So it's apples and oranges. And then I think, back to his experiences in college, definitely at the beginning of his time at both of those schools, the kinds of number issues that Nebraska is dealing with right now in the offensive line and maybe the defensive line are the most significant, where the you wonder, okay, how are they going to get 2 teams together for the red-white game? Because I know they want to play football on April 22nd.
Exactly right.
And you got to have healthy linemen to be able to do that. Compared to his first years at those schools, Nebraska's numbers look good. Now, I'd say if you compare, and this would be interesting to compare the numbers to what he had in his last years when they were competing for championships at Temple and Baylor. And I think you would see that Nebraska's probably not quite up to where they would like to be. And maybe just sheer numbers they are, but as far as guys who are developed and guys who are ready to play, that they feel are ready to play in the conference that they're in, Nebraska's, I'm sure, a few steps behind where those teams were within year 3 or 4 for Matt Rule at his previous stops. And I think he also has a good feeling. First of all, he's not going to say negative things about his position groups. When he's asked questions, they could have 8 injuries at linebacker over the next 2 weeks, and he's not going to go out there and say that these guys are the worst group in the Big Ten. I mean, it's just that's more than obviously than what any coach would do. But he's going to lean on being very positive, especially here in year 1 as they try to instill confidence in this team. But my final point on the offensive line is that I think he has a sense of comfort by the fact that you have one freshman who's already there in Gunnar Gatula, and then you have Sam Sledge, Knutson coming from Brock Knutson from out west, and a couple of guys in Jason Machazak and Mason Goldman who could play on either side of the line. So if the numbers are short either way, that's going to help determine where those guys go. So they have a big group of young offensive linemen coming into the program that isn't necessarily going to help Nebraska win games in the Big Ten next year, but it looks good for the future.
We're talking to Mitch Sherman, Nebraska and college football writer for The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, we were talking about the power of unity and the word Coach O was so good leading with, and then the word Coach Rule is currently leading with, is unification. Hearing about 175 former Husker football players that came to Nebraska's practice last Saturday, just listening to Coach Rule speak.
175.
Right. Just listening to Coach Rule speak and the actions at practice that speak louder than it. It all kind of ties back to unification in a lot of different aspects. But what about this upcoming year? Has you confident this program can be as unified as ever?
Well, that's a huge number, and I heard Coach Rule say that. I don't know where they put all those people on Saturday with the recruits who were in there too.
Like herding cattle.
Maybe I had to have a separate practice field just for the ex-players. They outnumbered the current players, so that's kind of cool. I just go back to, and I don't want to say that it's like this is on track to be the most unified Nebraska's ever been. Nebraska was pretty unified at times in 2018. There was a ton of energy and positive energy and movement in the right direction and rallying around the right pieces when Scott Frost came to Nebraska that first year. Like we shouldn't just gloss over that because it didn't end well. That's not the reason that things failed for the last regime, because there wasn't enough unification or unity. Certainly at the beginning, it was there. So that's a piece of it. But I will just go back to what I've leaned on, and I think you guys have seen this and talked about it. It's just the ability to communicate and the ability to resonate with people and form quick connections. That there are some people who can meet you and you have a conversation with them and you just like them from the get-go because they come to your level. They see things eye to eye with you. And it's not just Matt Rule. He's very, very good at that. But all the guys that I've met on his staff, just about, and it's one's up here, one's here, but they're all very good at connecting. And you connect with enough people, you're going to have a lot of unity. I think it's as simple as that.
So, Mitch, let me ask you something, because I'm kind of just been on this. It's an unscientific study. And I think you've maybe seen this in places that you've enjoyed working, where there's like this consistent. It's not just the consistency of the purpose, right? The unity at the end. It's the unity along the way too, right? The shared language where people they can talk to each other using the same terminology, which Coach Rule is a big fan of. When you're watching this unfold, do you pay attention to how much the players sound like the coaches, or is that something totally different for you?
I think it's a good point. And I think you see it with a lot of different teams. I mean, this is not a thing that in any way that's specific to football. I've probably seen it over the years at Nebraska with other teams more than football. Dave Van Horn, I go back to him, and he was a guy who definitely did that. And his players started to talk like him pretty quick and use the phrases, we're going to get after it, that kind of stuff. Things that you didn't hear necessarily in Nebraska lingo around Nebraska athletics until he got there, and then he started talking like that, and his players started talking like that. Clearly, football, has a bigger impact than any other sport on the department at large. And you've seen some people talk about how this is elite, or that in the same way that Matt Rule does it. I think as time goes on, we'll see more and more of that with the players. Haven't had a ton of opportunities this spring to communicate with those guys. I mean, there's been a handful, maybe a dozen by this point, who have gone in front of the media. But who was it the other day? I think it was Nash Hutmacher who made the comment about how he said something about how it's not theirs, it's ours.
Yep, that was Nash.
Yeah. That seemed to me like, and I haven't heard Matt Rule make that exact comment, but when he said it, it seemed like the exact kind of thing that he would say. And I imagine the players heard that in their their meeting room or at a big get together. I mean, they've heard a lot from him at this point. And yeah, players are a reflection of their coach, and assistant coaches are a reflection of the head coach. You see it with successful coaches all over the place. It's pretty prevalent in the Nebraska volleyball program to hear players talk like John Cook. So, but the more time goes by, I think we'll hear more of that, and the football program will kind of have this language of its own that's pretty recognizable to anybody who walks in there and has heard Matt Vrzal talk.
Mitch, you've had a week to soak everything in from spring. Not only what stood out to you or who surprised you, but if we got a peek inside of Mitch Sherman's notebook, what would we see in there, and what would you be writing down currently that you are still waiting to see this spring?
Well, we're going to get a taste more about what's going on defensively. We've heard from Tony White, but we're going to hear from some defensive coaches today. I believe it's Evan Cooper and Terrence Knighton. So that'll be good to assess what's going on there. And that would be the answer to the second part of your question. That's what I'm looking for the rest of the spring. I mean, we continue to, of course, hear about the quarterbacks and the offense, but there's been a lot in that area already. I've just noticed the smoothness. It appears to be very smooth, like this transition. You don't hear a lot of what could be perceived as mutiny or players who are disenchanted with the transition. I mean, there's going to be guys who leave because that's just how a coaching change goes, and they've got to be at a certain number here by the end of the summer. But I just get the sense that it's going smoothly, and that doesn't mean that's put another win on the win total. Now they're at 7. Now they're at 8. I mean, those two things don't need to be conjoined so much. But I don't get the feeling that like there's this constant tug, internal struggle within the program. Like where's the next dramatic moment going to be? I think a lot of that's gone. There's things are just more easygoing right now, and the intensity will definitely ramp up as the summer gets here and we get closer to the season. That's natural, but I think it'll be in a more healthy way. So that's been a major takeaway for me of how this spring has gone. And then the other thing I would say is just Rhule's attention to everything in the program. He's the head coach. He's charged with having these guys win. But just little details all over the place, whether it's the interviews and the way that we stand when we talk to him, go behind this rope, coach wants more space between himself and the cameras. This will work better. All of these little things. His hands are everywhere on this football program, and it's only been 4 months. So that's impressive, because I thought, you're going to dive in, a new head coach, you're going to dive in, you're going to do all the football stuff, you're going to get the roster together, you got to work on recruiting, sign that first class quick, try to catch up on the second class. Then you got to prepare for spring practice and spring recruiting. There's a lot to do there, just football wise. But no, his influence is all over the place.
Mitch Sherman, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much. We will talk again in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Mitch.
Right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Mitch Sherman, Nebraska and college football writer for The Athletic. Toss him a follow on Twitter at Mitch Sherman. Coming up, we still want to get back on our previous point that we teased coming out of the 7 o'clock hour, but also we have the Sports Six Pack. So we'll decide next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
Hey, welcome back. Sports Six-Pack time. Presented by Zipline Brewing, as you heard our voice guy, Cam, coming in with that.
Is that who that is?
That is Cam.
Man. Okay.
You know, if I could,
K Bizzle,
if I could
Thug Dizzle.
if I could describe Cam, I would say dope.
He's like, yeah, that's
Like
good.
the dope juicy IPA at Zipline.
Dang.
Dang.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him mosaic, although
No.
when he shaved his beard, I kind of felt that he was a little mosaic. And I'm like, who are you?
Hey,
Who are you?
Why you on my guy?
And maybe he has a copper ring. Who knows? Like the copper alt. We're just saying every beer that Zipline has, and it describes our guy Cam. No, whatever your taste is, Zipline has the beer for you. I'll talk to you about the Mosaic. It's a delicious West Coast style IPA, U.S. Open Beer Championship silver medalist in a very crowded category of American IPAs. Blueberry, tangerine, papaya. Those are the notes that you get in that beer. Find it at the tap room. It's a favorite, and it's all year round. Let's get to the question. Shane, kick us off.
Question number 1.
What's your favorite Frank Solich story?
Oh man,
Favorite.
I don't know. I told mine kind of because I think it changed the trajectory
What about like
of my
in
life.
the game? Like in-game moment for you? with
Oh,
Frank
I'll
Solich?
give you a class. You want a classic Coach Solich moment? We were playing Washington State, and it was like it was to my left, so I think it was a 43 dive, and I cut it back a little bit, and I spun going into the tackle. Right, I think he wanted me to drop my pad level a little bit or whatever, and go into contact, and so. I can't remember what ended up happening on the drive, but I remember going over to the sidelines, and we kind of stood together as a running back group, and the phone rang, courtesy phone, and we looked at each other, and whatever, man. Coach Solich is upstairs, right? So they're like, "Hey, DB, Coach Solich," and I grabbed the phone. I was like, "Yeah, coach." And he said, "Hey, if you want to play again, you won't spin like that going into contact. What'd I tell you about that? We deliver. We don't get boomed on. Clear? Clear? Clear?" Yeah, coach, I'm good.
I don't know if you're Shane or Coach Solich now.
Hey.
Clear.
I'm actually shocked that they had phones when you played.
Yeah. It had the little
rotary?
The little dial thing too, because you couldn't call up. You picked up, and then it would blink up there, and vice versa. It would light up and ring.
Oh, you're younger than I thought.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever.
Shane, I don't have one.
Question number 2.
Take it or leave it. What does that say? Yoshinda will live up.
You know he can't read.
Live up to the projections.
I mean, like, what are we talking about? Did you not prep these?
Come on,
I've
Shane.
told you this for years.
Yoshida is how you pronounce.
See, I would never would have get. I mean, I'm looking at it.
Masataka's name.
Yeah,
My
I see, I
man
wouldn't
thinks
get
he's talking about the little bear on the cartoons.
it. No,
I thought he thinks Yoshi from Mario.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the new movie out?
Yeah,
Oh
there's
no,
a
I
new
saw the
movie
little
out.
dude sitting on the couch. I thought of you when they were doing the premiere, but then I was like, no, that's not Shane. His mustache is too dark.
Hey, Yoshida was a stud in Japan. He hit over 300, 21 dongs, I believe. Had more walks
Dongs
than
is funny.
strikeouts. But the projections are weird on him. I was reading.
Oh, you on Fangraphs?
Yeah, they have him. They have him 30% better than the average hitter. Like that's what they project out of Yoshida.
Yeah.
And I'm like, a year one guy out of Japan, new team. It's a total culture shock from Japan to the U.S. unless you're Shohei Ohtani, and that's not Yoshida. He's not Shohei Ohtani. So I haven't seen enough out of him to make me believe that he's going to be better than the projections. 30% is high. 30% better than the average hitter? I don't know. I'm going to leave that.
I'll leave it as well. I didn't even have to think about it. And plus, I think pitching will return. I'm going to leave it. I think there'll be a lot of good pitchers.
Hey, you know what my favorite bet
Cy
is
Young
for
is
baseball?
tough. What's that?
First inning unders.
What's wrong with you, man?
Dude, good pitching. So hearing you say reaffirms that the first inning unders are back again.
Who thinks of that?
Oh, it's the best bet. Oh, it's so fun because you're either you cash out not even halfway through an inning.
Man. Shane?
Question number 3.
Jim from Grand Island here. When you stay in a hotel, do you reuse your bath towels because the little sign on the door guilts you into it? Or are you the ignorer like me and ask for new towels every day?
I'm team new towel.
I'm team
every
new
day in
towel
the
too.
hotel. No
Yeah,
question.
I see the sign that says, "Oh, be green." Like, go green. Don't have us wash.
No, more like don't turn green. Give me a new towel. That's what I say. Don't turn green.
Why am I waking up itchy?
Yeah, give your boy a towel. Plus, they only give you like 4 big towels, and one of those is inevitably going to make its way on the ground
floor.
because you don't want to step. Because you don't want to step out of the shower,
And they give you a step out mat, but it's as
like
thin as parchment paper.
and it's like the size of a shoebox top.
Yeah.
Like, who's getting out? Zoe?
Well, maybe because you're probably sharing the room with people.
Fudge.
So 4 towels don't cut it.
Yeah.
I need a new towel.
I'm team new towel.
And they also don't give you a lot of places to hang your towel.
Nah.
Like, they give you one spot. It's going on
under the rack. Yeah, man. I'm team new towel. No question.
So towel on the ground?
Towel on the ground.
Question
Towel on the
number
ground.
4.
Looking like a fool with the towel on the ground.
Question for Damon. With your knowledge
Why
of-
are these all for Damon?
I don't know.
Am I here?
Undying.
Do you see me?
No, I don't.
All right, go ahead, Shane.
Okay. With your knowledge of both the current Husker running back room and the great history of the position at Nebraska, how would you comp current room against the great running backs from Husker past?
I wouldn't.
Fair enough.
Not there yet. I'm not even sure it's that close, to be honest.
I would agree with that.
I like the room. It's just, I mean, we don't even have to go back that far. At one point, Nebraska's running back room had Aaron Green, Braylon Hurd, Rex Burkhead, and Amir Abdullah. This guy's pretty good.
Look around the Big Ten. If you had a guy like Mo Ibrahim or Chase Brown last year, you could make a case that he's one of the great ones.
Yeah. I gotta see a bell cow first. They're not there yet. The bottom though is pretty close to the ceiling. It's a very, very high floor. A very high floor. That's a good group.
Question number 5.
Minor leaguers will get pay raises thanks to the new collective bargaining agreement announced yesterday. My question to you guys, is it enough? Do you think it should be more? I guess that's
more.
2 questions.
Should absolutely be more.
So there's 2 things going on, right? So we know the CBA deal is good going forward for the agreement, but did you see the 9-year settlement in the antitrust case?
Is that 185 mil?
It was
Something like that?
185 mil, which
Yeah.
is different than what Shane's talking about with the new CBA. But did you see on average, it's 2,400 players roughly. Not that I remember the numbers. You know how much that is per player?
That I don't even want to try
With
to
the projected
math.
payout. So I'm missing something because I did the math. They said it would come out at the end of the deal. And maybe this is what happens with a 9-year court case. Lawyers make all the money. $185 million settlement, right?
You would think
the
it's
2,400 players will average anywhere between $5,100 and $5,500. 5,500 times 2,400 is about 13 million.
Isn't that insane? All the fees,
Like, what are we talking about?
right?
You went to court for 9 years to give my guys $5,500,
And then to give them a salary of max like $35K a year.
But no, Shane, to answer the 6, I had to
Gotta
go
be
off
more.
on that. Can you believe, like, we try to be all knowing here? It's baseball, so we're in it. What do you got here? Question number 6, little face.
Everywhere I turn, it seems that C.J. Stroud is the consensus first overall pick. Is he really better than Bryce Young? It says I
No.
don't see it.
No, I still think Young goes 1. I think Stroud goes 2.
I think Bryce Young goes 1 too, and I think Bryce Young's the better quarterback.
I
I've
do
been saying
too.
that from the very beginning.
I do too. Give me Bryce Young.
Size wise, yeah, you go with CJ Stroud. He looks more like your atypical quarterback. Bryce Young, though, has the IQ that I like out of a quarterback.
He's a winner. Give me Young.
How funny, though, is it that small quarterbacks tend to go number 1 right now?
Small is good.
Hey, we're talking sports betting next.
Clear.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, wake up. We're back. It's sports betting time. It's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. DB makes a lot more money than me, and that's probably because he follows Brian Edwards' advice, and I don't. So let's...
That's a lie.
Let's bring in Brian
We're still
Edwards.
waiting for Brian.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm not looking at the...
Shane, are you producing?
The
Yes.
online version, our
Right now.
studio version
Still waiting.
on the screen.
Yeah, he just tweeted that he was coming on. So it's
So, okay, buddy, I just got a text from my buddy. You know how I brought up the first inning unders?
Buddy who Hackett?
This is my UFC buddy.
Oh, Buddy Wack. Oh, the guy that was mad that you're disrespecting Justin Gaethje.
And rightfully so.
He got paid.
And rightfully so. So he sent me his first inning under parlay today. And, as we wait for him, I'm going to pull up the.
You guys need some help, man.
No. Maybe.
He said, no.
Maybe psychologically something.
How about a no? First inning under parlays.
Inning under parlay. Minus 165, minus 130, minus 135, minus 120, plus 806. His first is the Mets Marlins, which is Verlander. No, it's Scherzer. Okay, Scherzer and Alcantara. Seems like a lock, right? Especially when.
How much is it?
Minus 165.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
White Sox, Astros. That one is Cease and Valdez. Yep. I'll take that too.
Valdez, I almost made him my Cy Young pick.
Really?
Almost.
Yeah, he was a stud last year.
Almost.
Diamondbacks, Dodgers.
Diamondbacks and Dodgers.
Gallen and Urias.
Yeah. Zach.
And then Pirates and Reds. And I like doing games like that too because you're going to get the best pitchers but a bad offense.
Yeah.
So I agree with that pick. And the Pirates-Reds play is Hunter Green and Mitch Keller.
You don't have to tell me. Is Hunter Green going to finally live
up to expectation?
Hey, so is your rookie of the year a Diamondback?
Is my rookie of the year a Diamondback?
No,
it is not. But
okay.
I know
okay.
who you.
Mine isn't either.
Okay.
I thought about it.
I thought about Carroll.
Yeah, me too.
Number one prospect in baseball, but I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
I didn't go with him.
Okay, we'll get into that talk tomorrow, and it'll fit still because we'll cover baseball, and then we can still do all of that, and it's not going to be if one teams are 1-0 or 0-1, it's not going to change anything. Let's bring in Brian Edwards now. He's with us with his gamer headset that looks like me every time I go home after the show. He may be playing Fortnite or he may be on Coffee and Cream.
No, he's an adult. He's not playing Fortnite.
Hey, don't put that past some adults, Stevie. You're going to offend some people out there. Us Fortniters stick together.
Oh, Lord.
Brian Edwards, good morning, man. Oh, Shane, pot him up.
He's potted up.
He's potted up. We can't hear him. We can't hear you, but I can see your lips moving. I'm gonna go ahead and assume it is not our fault.
I'm gonna go ahead and assume he's like, yeah, I play Fortnite all the time. Like it's my thing.
Probably not what he was saying.
It's crazy to think.
Shane,
that
see if you can grab him. See if you can grab him to start over to make sure because he's on the headset. So maybe it's like a button or two. He's going back to look. I can see him like looking. He's working.
Now, if you look to his right, I brought up how you were kind of like Harry Potter-esque. Like you're
under the stairs.
DB's life is like a book. I said I could read a big series on DB's life.
Oh, well, you know too much because you hear all the side conversations.
I love it. But I said, you probably started off living under the stairs. I saw a little Hogwarts closet underneath his stairs there in the video.
And I never. So like I don't always like to answer those phone calls, but it just depends. It just depends on like who it is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, sure.
So occasionally, like out of respect, they typically won't call during those times. But sometimes if they do, that means I gotta.
Oh, it's important. And there's no knock on that at all. I just really enjoy hearing every side story because I can piece things together in my own brain and make it my own.
Yeah,
it's not DB's anymore. It's Andrew's. It's Andrew's reaction. Maybe I'll be your writer. Maybe I'll write your book someday.
Some of it though is kind of stressful.
But that's a good plot twist in my book. This is great.
Yeah, I don't know.
What should we call it? What should we title it? DB's. Okay. I'm gonna come up with something and I'm gonna tell you. It
could be like Lil Uzi Vert or somebody and get a ghostwriter.
Ooh.
No, I don't want to be disrespectful.
You mentioned Witch Doctor earlier today.
Brian's back. You want to go back to
him?
Let's go back to B.
And I thought of Hobson. Have you ever heard of Hobson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a great Witch Doctor song. What's up, B? Can we hear you? No, Shaner.
What is going on? Everybody needs Brian Edwards.
I think it's my fault. And
there he is.
It was my fault. It was my fault. It was not on Shane. Okay.
He's like, man, I know Damon's a nut job. I don't want him offing his producer, man. I'm going to go ahead and own it before Shane comes up missing.
That's not on Sugar Shane.
Hey, listen, I have my little Tonka truck skid loader to dig the hole for Shane. You know, I'm glad you bailed him out.
Yeah, sorry, Shane.
We're back to hooping, man. So at this stage, when you're critiquing college basketball, you know everybody wants to be playing, right? So you don't even worry about factoring in emotions, right?
I mean, if you're not motivated to play this time of year, why are you playing?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to be. They got a whole week of rest preparation. Yeah.
This one's interesting. UAB landed 2 against North Texas. North Texas quietly is building a nice little roster. Part of their coaching staff is from Sunrise Christian Academy, so they got a pipeline to the AAU world. That's a good basketball team, man. Just a slight underdog. It's 2. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm going to go with UAB here. So North Texas swept the pair of games in the regular season, but Jelly Walker, UAB's best player, averages better than 22 points per game. He was out injured when the Mean Green went to Birmingham and won. And then when he was back healthy and they went out to, where are they? Denton, Texas? Somewhere.
They are, yeah.
Denton?
Is it Denton?
Not
It might
sure.
be Denton.
Anyway,
No, it is Denton. I think it is Denton. Wow, that's
Anyway,
pretty good, B.
wherever the heck they went in Texas. UAB lost by 3 in overtime, but then in the third game, UAB won in the Conference USA tournament 76-69. UAB is 16-2 in its last 18 games. The only losses to FAU and that OT loss at North Texas. I'm going to go with the Blazers -2.
While you're getting the jelly in the NIT, you get the jam in the Final Four. FAU +2 against San Diego State. SDSU, of course, a team that Omaha knows very well after watching them play in the Elite Eight. But you like FAU +2. Does that have anything to do with the way they shoot it? And if so, why do you like them +2 if SDSU can also defend that 3-point shot?
How about this? Let me tackle the side and the total because I'm going to have a little bit more on the under. So I just want to say I like under 132 better than I like FAU, but I'll handle or talk both of them here. So the under's hitting 12 straight for San Diego State and is on a 14-1 run. The under's on a 5-2 run for FAU. Now, this is a low total for FAU, but it's a pretty high total for San Diego State, who eight of San Diego State's last 9 games have had the following combined scores: 113, 127, 120, 119, 113, 125, 117, and 126. And they held Memphis to 65. FAU did. And Memphis averages 79.5. I just think FAU plays good defense. We know San Diego State plays lockdown D and struggles to get buckets. And I think it's kind of, and this goes for the side and the total, I think it's a similar matchup for FAU as they had against Tennessee, which they won a 62-55 game for 117 combined. But I think Tennessee is probably a little better at that style than San Diego State, which sounds more ironic since San Diego State still has a pulse and Tennessee's gone, but you know what I meant. So I like FAU +2 as well. FAU 6-2 both straight up and against the spread, 8 games as an underdog, and I like Andrew was noting there. Yeah, I think FAU's got a lot of shooters. They got a lot of guys that can get to the rim off the dribble, and they D up as well. So I go FAU in the under, but a little more on the under.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I looked at Andrew when this line came out. I didn't get it, right? I was talking to my buddy Joel yesterday, and he was like, maybe it's a little recency bias. I think everybody agrees. Not only is UConn the favorite, but they're playing the best. 5.5 seems like too many, at least at first blush. What say you?
Well, I don't think any gambler should be in any hurry to go against either one of these teams who are both playing lights out right now. And I've been on Miami all 4 games. I think I've been on UConn, not the Iona game, but I think the last 3. I know both. I was on them both times last weekend for easy winners. But anyhow, so my plan right here is pre-game or pre-flop, however you want to term it. I'm going to go a little bit on Miami plus 5.5. So they're 9-1 against the spread with 7 outright wins in 10 games as an underdog. But if you go back to late February of 2021, Miami's been an underdog 31 times, and they are spectacular 26-4-1 against the spread with 18 outright wins. So pre-flop, I'm going to have some on Miami plus 5.5, but it is my hope that UConn gets out to a lead and that I can get Miami live in game at maybe even like plus 9 or 10 or better. And that's when I'm going to get aggressive. Like, it's exactly what I did Sunday against Texas. I had a little bit on the Canes pregame, but I even tweeted it. I said, I'm looking to get them at a better underdog number at like plus 8 or whatever. At halftime, I was able to get them plus 7. But then when they were down by like 12-ish with like 11 or so minutes left, I was able to actually get a plus 10.5. And I made more, in-game betting and better numbers.
Thanks, B. We appreciate it.
Thanks, B.
Oh, sorry. I ran out of time. All right, guys.
Thanks. More coffee and cream next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, welcome back to the show. 888-638-4876 if you'd like to get involved. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Before we get to Michael Bruntz, I want to take a moment and tell you about Dingman's Collisions Center. Dingman's has this awesome give back program for every car repaired. So when you go into their shop, if you need an oil change, if you, I don't know, totaled your car, if you needed,
I just left there yesterday. They gave me a tour,
and you drop a token in the jar, and that's who Dingman's will donate for you.
you get a bead. You put it in a little deal. They gave it to Caleb. He got the pick. They had one of 3 that were going this month. Bing! Caleb goes, gotta go with the young ladies. Let's go with the girls program.
That a boy.
Yeah, it was fantastic. They called me early. Hey, we're done. It was just getting out of the washer, and I was like, woo, save me a trip getting on Dodge to take him to practice. Let's go get this vehicle.
Let's go.
Thank you, Seth, over at Dingman's.
And whatever vehicle you have, they work on all makes and models. So
Sure
have
do.
no fear. Go to Dingman's, and they will be there for you. 4 locations, voted first place, best of Omaha for 18 years running. Family-owned, family-run local business, Dingman's Collisions Center. Let's now welcome to the show Michael Bruntz. Michael, I did not get to talk to you last week. Did you have him on Thursday last week?
Bruntz, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So he was fresh off vacation. I was feeling pretty good.
So I was over at practice. Michael Bruntz, senior writer for Husker 24/7. First off, good morning, Michael.
Hey, how are you guys?
Pretty good, Bruntz. What are we going with? I don't believe the shirt that you tweeted out. What are we going with for opening day?
That's it. That's the shirt.
Is it really? Okay.
Well,
okay.
If you go through his feed, he's an A's fan.
Oh, no question. Yeah,
like
we've been talking about this for years.
Don't forget
that. I just felt like you had freshened up the wardrobe. Why are we going so old school?
Because I'm not giving the Oakland A's a penny of my money until they decide to stand. So
Good on you.
We're going back. We're not going forward yet. So
What?
The 89 Bay Bridge Series T-shirt it is.
One of the things I wish you would have done was keep your manager from a year ago, because I certainly was dreading him coming over to the West. And I know it's the second time around, but man, they're probably the fave now.
Yeah, no, he's a great manager. It was funny when he left. Everybody that was an A's fan was like happy for him. It was like you made it out. Like it's like the Shawshank thing. You made it through. The rain is just pouring on Bob Melvin's face, and he's just feeling great.
Crawled through a ton
that
of
was the reaction.
Doo-doo all the way to a pond.
Listen, that's 3 football fields. Bruntz, are you excited?
Am I excited for baseball?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any baseball is good baseball. I think that's my general approach. I don't know if you guys check sports books at all, but
not us.
I'm sitting next to the biggest degenerate this side of the Missouri.
Not me.
Bruntz. He's got a first inning under parlay going.
We're locked and loaded.
You probably could have gotten some action even before that, right? Like somebody's probably taking money on like BP or something.
Yeah, how many home runs is Aaron Judge hitting out of the yard?
Like who does that? And then he stops me, Bruntz, a couple minutes ago over the break, and he goes, "Hey, I want to read you my buddy's his first inning under parlay too. He's got one going." I'm like, "You need new friends."
No, you need to join our friend group.
You got 162 games. You got to pace yourself.
No, Michael, come join the Colts. Come join us. We're there. I'm going to make money before anybody else gets to the second inning. Think about that.
That's true. If you get a chance to get up early in the season, you take it. Some sports books have the A's season win total at 59. So I don't know how excited I am for that, but baseball's good. I'm excited for a little baseball.
How about even locally here? Can I butt in and ask about the Huskers and Big Ten play over the weekend against Illinois? But the one glaring issue that stood out, which has been following them like a dark rain cloud, the team still can't buy a win on Sunday. 1-4 on the season. I question if that has everything to do with pitching, seeing as Nebraska has put up 7+ runs in each of the losses, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say about when the Huskers get to Sunday.
Oh yeah, no, it's they feel great about Friday and Saturday, and on Sunday it's just basically been strap in and kind of see how it goes. I don't, they've tried Caleb Clark there. They've tried Michael Garza. That hasn't worked. I'm trying to think if Jackson Brockett started on Sunday. I don't know if he's started this Sunday yet, but he's another guy that's kind of been in that midweek Sunday type role, and it really hasn't stuck with anybody. Do they, look at that as kind of like almost like a midweek where you kind of do like the Tampa Rays starter situation and hope that somebody gets you 2 innings and then just kind of pass the bucket? Or Will Walsh just looked pretty dang good
Pass the bucket.
in those midweek games the last couple weeks. I mean, he's earned as much of an opportunity on Sunday as anybody. So they don't have to worry about it this weekend. They're only playing 2 games and they're playing on Saturday, so they've got some time to figure that out. But certainly, I mean, when you basically take it to Illinois for 2 straight games, and then it even felt like on Sunday that the offense probably had enough to get you over the top, but you can't give up 10 runs on a Sunday and expect to sweep a series. I mean, that's the difference between when you're talking regionals and talking like we've got to win the conference tourney in May to get into the tournament. I mean, that's where it starts to add up.
But Bruntz, let me ask you something. Talking to a couple of baseball guys, because it's not just as easy as, and I know you know this, stretching a guy out, right? Sometimes there's something about seeing multiple hitters through, what kind of command you have over multiple pitches, pitching sequence, second and third time through. How would you, or how do you think Christie and Bolton, those guys, want to maybe stretch out Walsh just to give themselves the chance to see if a little is good, can a lot be great?
Yeah, well, I mean, he threw 90 pitches against North Dakota State. He was around that number against Creighton.
I think
which is remarkable when he had only got an inning. I mean, that was his longest outing before those 2. I mean, I can't remember somebody just kind of coming out of nowhere the way that he has the last couple starts. And, for him, he's a hell of a story. I mean, he has had multiple injuries at Nebraska. He was hurt before he even got there. He's had some just really like baseball injuries, how you have a guy tears an ACL, like carrying groceries into his house or something like that.
Or tripping over a suitcase.
Or falling down the stairs.
Like the Jeff Kent. Well, I mean, Jeff Kent was on a motorcycle, but washing his car. But I mean,
running down ex-porn stars allegedly. I hate Jeff Kent, so it's funny you say that, but sorry,
but I mean, he said sorry. He said that kind of bad luck during his career with injuries, and he doesn't really overpower guys. I thought that Nebraska called a really good game with him on Tuesday, and he just he attacks and he pitches with confidence, and I think that's kind of what's been missing a little bit on Sundays and in those midweeks is you just need somebody to go out there and compete. And I think they like what they have in him. I think they're being patient with him, given that it's a really small sample size for what he's been able to do, but. I mean, heck, even if he goes out and gives you 4 innings on a Sunday or on a Tuesday, I mean, that's better than what Nebraska's been getting at this point. So I think he definitely warrants, a look at a little bit of a bigger role there.
Bruntz, what's the next step, do you think, for Bryce Matthews? I mean, Nebraska has picked it pretty well outside. He's made the majority of their errors, and I understand opportunities, getting balls hit at him. What's the next step, do you think, in his evolution to continue with his offensive prowess, right? And to still be kind of the slick fielder that he was maybe coming in, that hasn't always been shown as his offensive game has developed.
Yeah, no, I mean the defense is up until maybe the last week or so has been actually pretty good. I think they've been pretty pleased with what he's done for the most part there. The thing about Bryce, and I think you can kind of see this now. I mean, even that home run the other night against North Dakota State. I mean, he's playing with some swagger, some confidence, and he hadn't really done that.
He's bigger too.
In his career,
he's grown.
He's bigger. He's a lot bigger. I think the strikeouts are still a little bit higher than maybe you'd like to see for a leadoff hitter, but I think he's finally comfortable in that role because with him, it always felt like he was such a streaky hitter, and I think some people when they see him play, they still kind of have like freshman year Bryce in their minds, but when you dig into his numbers, I mean he's having an exceptional season. And he's got he has the speed too. He's added the power to it, and I think his approach at the plate has gotten better too. Because I think in the past he would get into situations where he was kind of swinging at bad pitches, and it kind of carried over, I guess, from at bat to at bat, and he hasn't had that this year. And I think he's really put it together, and he's always been a confident kid. But I think you're finally starting to see, some of that. The results on the field, I think, are starting to be, show up in the way that he's just kind of viewing things and just kind of playing with confidence. It's been kind of fun to watch.
Bruntz, we know you cover football, baseball, and recruiting, and it was kind of neat to see all three aspects of what you do present on Friday last week. You had baseball, you had football players, and you had recruits at the baseball game. So having that total package deal, and one being one of the biggest recruits that Nebraska has been fighting for, Dylan Raiola, and other big names there. You saw interaction with fans. You saw fans take photos with this guy, and it just goes to show that they so badly want him there. But aside from all of that, the move to bring football players to the baseball field. We were talking to Brady Oltmans earlier in the week, and he's like, well, it's kind of a unique move because what if they don't like baseball? But all in all, it's kind of what I think about most is even a recruit cares about the other programs at the university. And that's kind of like what Nebraska pushes is like, baseball supports softball, softball supports football, football supports swimming, whatever it is. When you get that type of approval, what did you kind of make of Dylan Raiola as a person versus him as a football player, just being there in that moment?
Yeah, it was the other thing I think that helped, let's take some football recruits to the baseball game. Is there was some buzz in the park that night. I mean, you had Hurrdat, Comine, and Gordon getting honored pregame. Nebraska comes out and hits pretty well right out of the gates and kind of jumps on Illinois. There was some good buzz. I think that matters. It's just an opportunity. I think that this coaching staff took. Like, hey, look, we've got a section kind of blocked off. Come and hang out for a while if you want to. I mean, the guys weren't out there, deep into the ninth inning or anything like that, watching Nebraska close it out. But, I think, when you see that kind of support, you get the buzz. I think it's just another kind of piece to the puzzle, I guess, when they're kind of thinking about things. It's funny. I mean, some of the guys from California that were at the game looked a little cold. But it was a chance to just kind of be around the coaches and, Rule and his staff. Everybody was there and just kind of hanging out. And it just felt, really pretty relaxed. And, for Raiola, I mean, he got the attention. He had, probably took a ton of pictures. I think he's, well aware of what things would be like for him at Nebraska. I think the fans are really excited about him, and that was a chance to kind of, show them that they're excited about it. So it's not the traditional, recruiting event. I can't remember a time that football recruits were brought over to baseball if they weren't, a dual sport type athlete. So it's unique, but you kind of have to take the opportunities to show off the fan support. I mean, they kind of did that with basketball a little bit too, and kind of taking those guys over there and showing them what the fan support's like in Nebraska, not just for football.
Something or nothing about the cancellation of not only the spring game, but some of his other officials.
I don't know. I mean, you're kind of to the point in the recruitment where it feels like, what does another visit and an unofficial visit really show you at this point? I mean, you've been to Georgia multiple times. You've been to USC a ton of times. You've been to Nebraska a ton of times. I mean, you've been a ton of places in the last 3 months. I think, it's probably not a bad thing to just say, okay, we're going to put a pin in this for a little bit, focus on us. And oh, by the way, the football piece of it that you still have to work on yourself. And, I just think now it's kind of like, okay, well, are you getting to the point where you're ready to make a decision? I mean, I don't know, like I said, what else are you going to see? And, aside from just getting some more time around the coaches, I don't know how that benefits you to get the whole family up and come up for a weekend or go to Oregon or USC or Georgia or wherever. So, I feel like it's kind of just, we're in a little bit of a waiting period with this. And I don't get the sense that the family or Dylan is in a huge rush to make a decision here. I mean, I think they're being deliberate, especially coming off the decommit from Ohio State. And I don't know. I mean, it did feel a little bit like overkill in some ways to me, that it's like, okay, you're going to take all these unofficials and then do another round of spring game visits. I don't know. I mean, I just, you're kind of in wait and see mode now.
Put these in order for me on March 30th.
Correct.
USC, Georgia, Nebraska. What does Mr. Pretty measured Michael Bruntz think about the optics of those three schools?
I don't know that there's a 1, 2, 3. I really don't. I mean, I think those three are pretty even right now. I mean, I think from what the comments that he's made, I think that there's different things kind of pulling on him. I mean, I think there's obvious intrigue with Georgia based on what they've done, and kind of where that program is at now. I think that's a big thing. USC, I think, is helped a ton by their ability Lincoln Riley's ability to develop quarterbacks, and I think that's the big draw there for him. Nebraska, obviously, it's a little bit more of an emotive thing, right? Like you've got the family background, you're a legacy, and it's a different animal than what you would be getting at Georgia and USC. I mean, I think that was pretty plain to see when you're at that baseball game and you're just getting swarmed. It's just different. And so I don't think that there's a ton of separators between the three right now. It's just a different decision right now with, I think the reasons why, to me. So when it kind of gets down to decision time, I mean, that's kind of what you have to figure out is what matters most there. And that's why I think, they're being a little bit more deliberate with it this time around.
Bruntz, of course, we heard yesterday that Coach Solich is coming back for the spring game to be honored with his family, which is a great get for Nebraska to bring him back. And because of how heavily desired he was by Husker fans and just the rest of the program. We also heard that 52,000 tickets were sold for these, or the number was getting close to 52,000 sold for the spring game. After the news of hearing that Coach Solich will be returning, how high do you expect the attendance to be for the spring game?
I mean, it'll creep higher. I think that event is always one too that you get a lot of people probably that last week before the spring game looking at the weather, right? Like you're looking at that forecast. Okay, maybe if it's going to be like mid 60s, maybe you load the family up in the car, you get the tickets and you head down. I mean, that to me has always kind of been, the thing about that event is it's always kind of, you're kind of in that lull with the ticket sales right now. And maybe, the Solich news kind of makes some people, commit to it a little bit earlier. But it's going to be a good crowd. I mean, I think there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of excitement around the program right now. You add the Solich thing, and I mean, maybe people want to be there when the curse is finally broken. I mean, that's what I'm told is the result of honoring Frank Solich finally. So the 20-year curse will be over. But
he believes. He believes, DB.
Yeah. I'm a little tongue in cheek, I'm guessing.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm expecting a good crowd. It's been a little bit slower, I guess, in the last few weeks with the sales than maybe what I would have expected. But it'll be a good crowd. I think it'll be a really good atmosphere. And I don't know. Damon was down there on Saturday. I mean, I think you can really feel the excitement around the program right now.
Yeah, let me get you out of here on this, Bruntz, because they practice hard, right? And it's it's wear and tear, and you're kind of in this second week, and historically, it's when things creep up, right? The buzz is kind of worn off. You're going through it. Do you think do you get the sense they'll have enough bodies? Because I don't think they don't appear to care right now if they're going to have enough bodies for a competitive spring game.
Yeah, O-line and D-line are probably the two biggest concerns, right? I mean, that's where we're looking, I think, for numbers.
Yeah.
Matt Rule the other day, I appreciated the kind of, it was a little bit of a joke, I thought, but, when you're a Nebraska fan or you've been around the program, I mean, you're used to like just lines of offensive linemen in your program. And when you're out there at practice, I mean, it's noticeable that when you get to that third group, there's not a lot of guys. They're kind of like they need to pull a guy from the first group to get a full five.
And small too.
Yeah, it's striking. I mean, they would have been helped by a few of those guys that signed in December and rolling early for sure. But they don't seem concerned about it. I mean, I think it's all about kind of your context and what you're used to. I mean, I remember when Frost's staff came over, they had like 10 guys, on that line their first year at UCF. So it's a little bit different and kind of depends on what you're used to. But that group in particular is what I'm kind of like, okay, we'll see how they kind of mix and match this to make this work for a spring game. But they don't seem too concerned about it. And, to your point about the second week of spring ball, I mean, you could tell during that open period on Tuesday morning that they were coaching them a little harder. And they were trying to keep the energy up, making sure that they were staying on guys and holding standards high. Because I think they were well aware of kind of what to expect going into the second week. And, when you kind of get into the real meat of spring ball.
Michael Bruntz, thank you so much. Happy opening day. We will talk again soon.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bruntsy.
Michael Bruntz, senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Michael Bruntz on Twitter. If he's an A's fan, they're obviously not making the World Series. Who do you think he would choose? Would he choose an AL or an NL team? Because do you like the AL?
I think he'd probably choose an AL team.
An AL team.
Although now that everybody's DHing, I guess it doesn't matter.
By the way, I have my Rookie of the Year candidate. I'll save it for tomorrow. When we come back, I want to go back on a point where we talked about being unified. That's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
After thinking about it, it makes sense, you know, in the sense that so much of what I'm watching Coach Rule do is create this culture of competitive excellence, right? And everything is a competition. Every drill is a competition. Everything we do is a competition. And in the end, again, those are numbers that have to be earned. That's special. It's not unlike earning the right to have a black shirt as a starting defensive player. And so it's different, it's new, it's innovative, it's a different tradition. And I'm fully supportive of Coach Rule and his staff as they're trying to build a culture of competitive excellence. And I know that's going to generate significant effort and interest in players who want to earn the right. Those are going to be special young men who represent the ideals of a culture that Coach Rule feels strongly about.
And all of that goes back to unification. It all starts there. The team dinners, the team building activities before spring, the competition in practice, as Trev just said, the overall mentality, it's all connected. Welcome back to Coffee and Cream alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. As much as people think this program lost its traditions, its core values, it's all coming back with Coach Rule. And that's because he went to the source of success and believed in the exact same things. And what I mean by that is when he speaks with Coach Osborne, Coach is a learner. As much as we say players are the sponges, he's a sponge. And with unification being on the table, it calls for better efficiency, communication, that's the big one, work culture. And what did I say yesterday when I talked about my crock pot meal? When it was all said and done, what do you get to? What's the final thing? It starts with an S. Satisfaction.
Oh, gotcha. I was going to say eat, but
and you know what? Maybe we let them eat too, DB.
Yeah,
but
got to eat.
It ends with satisfaction. When you get a unified organization that are all on the same page, you can weed out the tricky ones, the rogue individuals, but it's about developing organizational-wide understanding of the vision.
Or I mean, that's a lot in there. Organizational wide
understanding of the vision. So, or better yet, program-wide understanding of the vision.
Yeah, and I think those things are a lot easier to achieve when it's a lot easier to be on the same page with unification when even Trev, you didn't catch it, even he's talking about, uses the same things that Coach Rule talks about, the competitive stamina, right? Where it's not just being able to sustain how long you want to compete or when you can compete, but literal stamina where can you run an efficient play 4 times in a row? Can you do it 6 times in a row? Can you go hard for 7 seconds and snap it again? Can you go hard for another 9 seconds, get back to the huddle, snap it again? Like, there's just something that happens. And being competitive can be emotionally draining too. Like, we undersell that aspect of it, right? Where I was like, man, in college, I felt like I had to be on all the time, right? And I say I wouldn't pick that era to go back to because I didn't want to have to be on all the time. But really, I'm still competitive almost every day. I can just shut it down if I want to, right? But my natural mindset is to want to compete regardless of what we're doing. So, I may say something to you like this morning, man, I can't wait till, 4:00, man, I'm shutting it down.
First pitch, first
right?
inning unders.
Like I just want to turn my brain off. I'm afforded that luxury as an adult, but it is an exercise. It's a mental exercise. Like it is, but the more you get used to it, hey, if who cleans up their table the best, the training table, if it starts out as a competition, not leave scraps, get your fork, things returned back where you're supposed to, pretty soon it just becomes the thing to do. But it can start out as a competition, right?
And all good things do start out as a competition.
It's making everything a game. I was talking about some of our mental coaches at Westside talk about gamification, where, hey, who can sit up in there? Who can sit with their back against the seat the best? Who looks like they're paying attention the most? Like just weird little things to make it a competition. And the next thing you know, after time, everybody's sitting up and dialed in. Hey, who can fill up the first 3 rows the fastest? Right.
And that's the response.
Yeah.
Like it goes back to, you can listen, but are you responding? You can be competitive, but are you responding to your coach? Your
And I like the fact they're teaching that there's results that come with it. They're not always going to be good results, but for the most part, you're gonna get what you've earned, and that's just part of it. We do a thing at school that I thought was traumatizing at first, until I figured out how competitive it is that they embrace it. Right? They do GPAs by grade, right, and it's a competition. Freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. Highest GPA they get steak. They get their choice if they want all of them. They can steaks, burgers, chicken, or steaks, burgers, hot dogs. Served by
the
lowest achieving group.
I like that.
I mean, like a behind the tables, hey, spooning it out. The second highest gets burgers and hot dogs,
and then the last one just gets hot dogs
or a burger.
Hot dogs.
You don't get your choice.
Yeah, you don't get the steak.
And I was like, God, that's tough. Like they're gonna be the ones serving.
And then what did the last get? The
whatever's left over.
So there could be steak
And
left over?
no, they can't have steak though. Can't have steak, and you can't have two proteins. It's just whatever's left of.
They only get like the sides, or
of the proteins that's left.
I'm
It can't be a steak, right?
So
you only get one of them,
right,
and it can't be a steak. So you may just be eating hot dogs,
mm-hmm,
and your bag of chips or whatever's left over in the macaroni. And
so schoolwork matters.
It doesn't seem like that's the right thing to. Well, that's not fair.
I'll tell you what, though, you're preparing them for the next level in high school, right?
That's kind of what happens.
To be on the football field, what do you need?
Yeah,
you need good grades, and you need to focus on school and academics, so it matters.
And people, it's just become a thing. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, people want to win. It's just,
why do you? Great point. Coach Rule says he gets the best out of his guys when what? He says, don't run 10 times down and back. But if I make it a game, they're going to run 20 times down and back.
It's just, and the more it is right. He did say that last week in the presser.
Great to see everybody. Thank you, guys.
He's funny about that. He's like, hey, what did he say? What did he say?
He's like, what do you want to know?
And sometimes you can't shut it off, right? So my front hand strength is a backhand weakness. Sometimes you may not want to compete, or sometimes it's not that serious, and I'll want to make a competition of it. I want people to compete at life, and sometimes when you're in relationships, I need to dial that back, right? I can't be the guy that's, man, you've never been coached before. Like, has anybody ever told you that it's not good enough and you have to do better, or are you just not going to want to do good enough, and you're going to be like, oh, you said that to me. You know what I mean? So I have to know when to get in and out of phase, because it's the only way I know how to be. Unfortunately, fortunately.
And I told you yesterday too, in regards to my own personal well-being when it came to being an athlete, if I saw somebody in front of me, competition was hard. But what I was really good at is responding to constructive criticism. Like if somebody were to do what you said Coach Solich did to you earlier on in the show, like
put your hands up, fight.
I respond well to that because I don't like to disappoint. But the internal battle of competition is what I had to work through.
You got to manage that. That's a good point.
And that's always something I think about too, especially now during spring when you have 15, 20 guys sometimes in your position group, aka wide receivers, and you're looking for playing time.
Yeah, right. Josh Fleeks, and listen, I got a sore hammy. He's competitive, right? So how much can I do? Or AJ Allen, like staying on all the time, right? Like, you don't lack competitiveness. It's just that you have to figure out what's my 70% compared to what everybody else is doing, because you may not always feel great. You got to find a way to compete. Whatever it is that you've got in you, you've got to give it. And at some point, it just will become a way of doing things.
Great point. Coming up next, we're talking to Matt Vrzal to close the show. He's had, let's just say, an adventure of a couple of the last
another competitive
28 hours. That's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Now let's find out what Matt Vrzal is better at, telling stories or making pizza.
Matt.
Matt's an exceptional young man.
Matt Vrzal.
Happy birthday, Matt.
You know, Matt, he's a tremendous athlete.
Matt Vrzal.
Come on, Matt, I'm with you.
You know, like Matt Vrzal, you're one of the sexiest people in the world, but you're not one of the most beautiful. How does that happen?
Here is Matt Vrzal.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
First thing that he said.
Dansby drills one. Center field. Kolot's back. It is gone. NBA Jam heating up. Dansby Swanson homers for his second game in a row. Solo shot here in the second. It is 5-0 Cubs.
As I've been told, DB talks to his good buddy Matt Vrzal every opening day, and here we are. It's opening day, and Verz is in Chicago to watch the Cubs on opening day. Verz, is this something you do every single year?
This is your 20. This is my trip 27 on the home opener trip.
Wow,
and that's something.
That's amazing.
So
I've never gone to opening day.
I turned 21, and through good friends and a good banker, I ended up getting brought on this trip. And the rest is history.
Hey, how you feeling?
I feel great. I'm telling you, you get it going. And at night, just always have a Pedialyte or liquid IV, whatever you want to use, in your cooler, in your fridge. You get home, drink that thing. You sleep great. You get up in the morning, drink about half of one, and then fill the rest of that half with vodka and just start the day again.
Yes.
Hey, so that is kind of your thing. So those liquid IVs, those are those little packets you can buy at bulk at like Costco and stuff.
Yeah, they're good. There's a nostalgia to me with the Pedialyte. I just fire that baby down, and I know my numbers. I know what I got to get done to function the next day, and away we go.
Yeah, you and Caleb. Do you have a particular flavor? I notice you sometimes it varies.
Cold.
Cold? Well, is that the key?
Oh yeah, it makes everything cold. Makes everything taste better.
Now, are you a guy that avoids sugar, Verz? Because I know sugar can really give you a hangover.
I do. I just drink vodka. Like I had a bad experience. With beer, which I had drank majority of my life.
Yeah, well into your adult life.
Yeah, well, I was pretty fat, and then I lost some weight, and I think something in there, my body was like, hey, maybe if we don't freebase this sugar so much, we won't be so fat. And so I was like, but yeah, like at a tailgate, my throat started to swell shut.
And this was just like 3 or 4 years ago, if I remember right.
No, this is like 10.
No. Oh, I shouldn't tell you. It's you. But
I haven't been to a game, and I haven't been to a tailgate in 10 years.
Okay, but wait. So where was the wedding? The wedding wasn't that long ago where you thought you could maybe try a beer and it didn't go well. You were smoked.
No, I don't even mess with it. I'm straight edibles and vodka. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Nice.
Yeah.
Crossfade.
But yeah, so anyway, I started housing Bloody Marys after I thought my throat would swell shut, because in my brain I'm like, well, vitamin B has got to be good. I did that. And I know there's sugar in vodka. People that are going to send me stuff. I get it. Leave me alone.
It's all right. Not all tequilas are clear either, apparently. So
that is absolute 100% fact. All right. So what are you looking forward to today? I know you're going to have great seats.
Yeah. We're row 18, section 14. So I should be behind a left-handed batter behind home plate. We're just kind of starting to redehydrate. Patent pending on that. The guy that tweets that at me, I'll give you full credit. Limo Lou will pick us up at 10:45 over at the Drake, and he'll have some beers. I'll have to smuggle my Pedialyte vodka in there, and we'll go over to. We got reservations at Rizzo's.
Yeah.
So we'll go over there and booze it up, and then we'll wander around for a while and go in the stadium. I do always have to walk over past Sports Corner, because there's a chance like Wiegert and Keneally and those guys will all be there. That's always a funny passing in the streets. It's like, hey, how's it going, fellas?
Hey, Limo Lou's your same guy every year, right?
Yep, we found Limo Lou a little while back. We were walking on the street, a big group of 15, 18 guys trying to get cabs. And this dude pulls up, and he's got like a sweet, 25, 30 passenger, tricked out van, right? It was nice. And so he pulls up next to us. He goes, hey, you guys looking for a ride? And I was like, oh, man, we are going to be dead.
Yeah. Hey, did you make it back to the place that you went to during COVID that closed at 8 or 9 and you wanted to weasel your way in? Or did you cut them off?
One?
Yeah. Did you cut them off?
Oh, no. Go during the Rona, that doesn't count. I didn't judge anybody during the Rona. That was my one victory in 27 years. I won. I still wanted to drink, and nobody would serve me.
Yeah, and that was
because I was hammered, because nobody was open.
That was what, 3 years ago? Doesn't that seem like an eternity?
Yeah, it does. It seems. Well, I was just talking. We hit up. We ate at Rosebud, which was awesome. We got drinks a couple times at the Drake,
what'd you eat?
Which was funny. I ended up getting the Delmonico.
Oh,
and people will judge me on this.
Me.
But the Rosebud makes this dope hamburger. And people go, oh my God, you're going to go to Rosebud and get a hamburger? I was like, yeah, have you ever had this hamburger? It's the best hamburger in the world. But I didn't. I got it. I got the Delmonico, and we got it figured out. But anyway, so then we go to a couple other bars, a couple other haunts. We ended up at the Redhead Piano Bar. So singing and dancing and drinking, and some of the fellas were throwing out lines to no avail. And
hey, you're like, hey, tight game.
Yep. Fortunately, as this has progressed, some of the fellas on the trip have become single. So there's a little more entertainment.
Yeah, it makes it interesting.
And then I was trying to help a couple of them out. I was like, hey, they're old. And I was like, hey, take this line. I'm like, go over to this girl and be like, hey, can you help me with my phone? And then the girl will be like, oh yeah. The girl will be like, oh yeah. What can we do for him? I'm like, well, I think my phone's broken. Your number's not in it.
Yeah.
No, and when he says old, they're old.
It's good wingman.
Like me and you combined.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what's another? Is that your only line, or do you got another one?
You can't hey kid, you can't put them all out there.
I don't need them. I'm set.
Hey, so
now,
am I jinxing you? I think you guys are actually a dark horse. I was tempted, but I couldn't do it with the Phillies and the Mets. I was tempted to say you could win the division ahead of the Cardinals. Is that too much?
Well, I mean, what are you drinking?
So listen. I don't think you can make the wild card. You either have to win your division or you're going to be out.
I don't think any NL Central.
Once Stroman goes out today, I'm pitching. Right?
Yes.
Like there's no pitching.
Wow. Hey, do you want to ask him for his do-rag or no? Would you wear that little skull cap thing?
If he throws a no-hitter, I'll wear one.
Oh Lord!
We'll
if he throws a no-hitter, man, I'll work for free at Pisons anytime you want me.
Is that for the full year?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, he throws a no-no. You tell me whatever you want to. I'd be so happy for you, as long as it doesn't conflict with my work hours.
He's not going through the lineup throwing a no-hitter.
This dude was mad at me at how I was serving Diet Cokes the other day.
Yeah, I heard about that verse.
What's that?
That is not true. You were serving Diet Cokes fine. There was a patron that was being very impatient, and she needed to learn a lesson. And Damon did not allow me to teach that lesson. There were other customers besides you in there, lady, and we had some other things going on.
Bro, how mad at me were you?
Not very. They left it. That crew, hey, you're not listening. That crew that got there at 11 when you were there, 11:15, left at 1:30.
What?
Yeah.
Well,
had to have that slice ready ASAP.
Oh, so when she was raising her hand and I ordered the pizza, they stayed for 2 more hours?
An hour. No, that was 12:30. They ate, sat there, and then another hour they sat there.
Yeah. Maybe she asked me because she thought that's what I do.
Yeah. Good one.
Hey, tell these guys the story. They don't believe me. And I didn't give him up because the guy that you made come in and sit right next door down to me, but he was super cool. He was hilarious. So he had a 30 pie order.
Yeah.
He only had one request.
Yeah.
What was it, and what'd you tell him?
He said, he's like, hey, and he's a great guy. Mike's a stud, J.E. Dunn guy, good dude. But he was like, yeah, we're gonna do this, Can you cut these pizzas into squares? And I kind of looked at him. I was like, no. I said, this is not communist Russia. I was like, we will not do that. I was like, you can get 8s, 12s, or 16. So you can pick whichever one you want. And he looked at me. He's like, I don't even know what to do with this. I was like, I don't even know what to say.
You know what? The line of the deal though, because as I was trying to get out of there, and you wanted me to be uncomfortable, I go, God, I said, I hate that guy, and he goes, I do too. That's why I love him, and I come here every day. I said, I have no idea how he makes that work. The man people hate to love.
Man, Verse, we appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. Enjoy opening day.
All right, boys. Good luck. Follow along on Twitter if you'd like.
I will.
I'm following for sure. And you can follow too at VRZ51. That's it for the show today. Enjoy opening day. We'll see you tomorrow.